Oh, loady load, more money, more problems. What is up, boys? Welcome back to the channel. We're gonna get right down to it, y'all. Cooling system. We're gonna be talking about the cooling system today. You guys can see I got this bad boy in my hand. This Schwartz Performance Supercharger bypass. Now the stock one is super big and bulky, and if you guys are doing these Hellcat swaps, you know you're gonna have issues back here in the back towards the firewall for clearance. So Schwartz came up with this guy here to take in place and give you a little bit of wiggle room in that back firewall area, because we're not going to be able to run the stock one. So we got this bad boy here. But a few things with this one here, they make this very, I guess, not complete, I would call it. Doesn't come with any hardware, which I wish it would come with new screws, but it doesn't. So you got to use your old ones. Not to mention we're actually missing one. I don't know what happened to that from when we got the motor. But it also does not come with actual fittings for the hoses or the lines. So, I mean, it does come with like the two options if you want to run them on that side, if you want to run them on this side, which is cool. But you guys can see it comes with like, I don't know, maybe these weird looking adapters. One of them is a plug and the other one's an adapter. I'll show you guys what's going on with this heater system. Let me show you guys what we're working with. All right, boys, so this is what we're going to be using for the heater side, to go through the firewall to make the heater hoses from the back of the engine connect to our heater core slash vintage airbox. We're going to be using these bulk fittings. I picked these up at a local store here. Most of them are Red Horse, sprinkled in with some stuff from XRP. I'll see if I can find a couple links below, you guys. These are a dash 10 bulkhead, so that way we can screw that on. You're gonna need two of these crush washers. You want like these nylon washers like this. They come in a kit, and one on the inside of the firewall, and then one on the outside of the firewall. And you thread this nut in between to hold it in place, and then we'll have our actual hose barb style fittings. We'll press those on with a little lube and then also a little clamp like we used on those transmission lines, and that should hold it in place. Let me put these on and I'll show you exactly where we ended up doing it at. But these are pricey, you guys. I think, what did we spend here for all this stuff here? More or less about $173, almost 180 bucks after tax. But yeah, this is pricey. These fittings are not cheap, you guys, but they look great and they work great. So sometimes it's worth the investment. So this is what I've kind of come up with, you guys. They don't make it very easy on these back heater hoses on this motor. I think it's kind of a crappy design, but it is what it is. Not to mention it's going to be in the way of this bypass for the supercharger for Schwartz. So I got a T here coming off. And this line will be for the actual coolant reservoir, which is a 3/8 line, and then these are here 5/8 lines, and these will be for the heater core. They'll run back to the heater core to actual vintage system, vintage air system, the box. But I had to get a nice 90 here, actually two 90s if you guys can see. I got a 90 there and a 90 here, and then this T here. So what I'll do is I'll put this down here. But I want to show you the issue we're going to kind of have is that this guy here, either we're going to have to push it in or push it out. And I think in is probably going to be our best bet. We're just going to have to hose clamp it down there before we do that, before we put this bypass from Schwartz. So if you guys can see what I'm talking about, the bypass was kind of sitting there, but I gotta, obviously it's not even mounted really, but I want to show you guys how it kind of gets in its own way and how this is in the way now from this where it actually sits at. So it's gonna end up having to get kind of cinched down behind the block or on the other side of it between the firewall. And I think towards the front of it, I think is the best way to do it. It's not the greatest way to do it, but I mean, don't really have another choice when that line comes up so high up like that. I think it's kind of weird. I'm not sure what they use from factory. So we're going to go ahead and put this on and see what it looks like, and I'll also show you As a matter of fact, let me show you right now, because I did it off camera because it requires us drilling some holes. And if you guys are curious, where's my hole saw? We went ahead and drilled the holes in the firewall with this bad boy right here. This hole saw here, it's a 7/8, and I'll show you those fittings that we just talked about earlier. Still got to tighten everything down, but this is kind of what it's looking like. Let me get a flashlight. Sorry about the poor lighting, you guys, but you guys can see we got those two bungs going through the firewall along with the washers. Make sure you guys use those washers, one on each side. We just got to tighten these up, but the purpose of this is we'll have our 90 here like that. We'll have a 90 and it'll go back to our heater core / EVAP box from Vintage Air. We'll cut those down in length, insert those, put a clamp on it, and call it a day. Oh, loady load, more money, more problems. Apparently that port right there is supposed to be for that coolant temp sensor. The problem we have is that that's where it used to be before I cut it off. Look how short that is. And this is gonna sit way on the other side, on the driver's side. So what we're gonna have to do is I already started doing is I had to cut the pigtail. And you guys can see there's not a lot of slack. So I literally cut it right there, right here in the middle, and then soldered with 2 more leads coming off of it to extend that connector. So we're gonna end up having to solder it there as well, because there's just not enough room and not enough wire, not enough slack to even try to put connectors if we wanted to. So that's basically what we had to do. It sucks, but it is what it is. So let me solder this other side before we move on. We have to do this because once we put that bypass here, we won't be able to get to these wires. Save you guys the headache of you watching me trying to struggle to put this thing on, because after we got that wired laced up and hooked up, we had to get this Schwartz bypass on here, and this kind of was a pain in the butt. I still don't have this screw on yet because I'm actually missing one of these screws. I don't know if I told you guys that earlier, and I tried to call the dealership and they don't offer this one screw separate from that whole assembly, which I don't understand that one bit, but it is what it is. We just have to go find something that fits. But this was a pain in the butt. Remember we talked about trying to put that heater line there on this side, and it was not going to happen, because what was happening is that it was making this hose not be able to sit flush enough to get that block on. As you guys can see, this guy would not sit flush if this hose, this heater line, was in front of it over here. We just couldn't get it on to get it to sit nice and flush. So we didn't want to force it, so I ended up tucking it in the back, and that's the best it's gonna get. I mean, it's not too bad actually. It's not too bad at all. And then we got our one line coming off, and this will come off from that T for our reservoir. But here's that sensor, the one we had to relocate, and there's our pigtail that we had to solder and splice for the extension. So make sure you guys account of that. We just got to put our plug here, but I got to run to the fitting store, so I'll take that plug and match it so we can get some fittings for the actual lines on that side. So another thing I want to show you guys is that I went ahead and put the heater lines in as well down here. And you guys see them. I don't know how good the lighting is or not, but that is our heating lines. Remember I talked about these bulkheads? So these are your bulkheads that I bought, and they go through the firewall, and then these are the 2 heater lines that are coming from the top of the motor, the ones we had to tee on and everything. One of them you have to tee, the other one you don't. But push lock fittings with the clamp. I try to put the clamps down in the description below, even along with the push locks. See if I can get those on there. I believe these are -10s with 5/8 hose, but looks real clean, you guys. I'm really happy, and this is going to clear the header. We should have no issues here. Let me show you guys on the other side. The heater flow is very important too, because One of them's an inlet, the other one's an outlet. So you got to be cautious of that. You got to be super cautious of that. So the one coming off the passenger side on the motor itself is the inlet. And then the one on the driver's side is the outlet. Now, how that corresponds to the heater core slash box here. Now, you got to remember this. Coming out of the heater box, you're going to go into the motor. And going into the heater box, you're going to use the one coming out of the engine. So just keep that in mind. So remember, it's the opposite. So coming into the motor, you're going to use the one coming out of this guy here. So make sure you guys hook those up correctly. But here, this is where I was talking about those bulkheads. See if we got some better light here now. So just like that, we got those coming in and we got them routing from the EVAP box from Vintage Air up top up there, but you guys can see it or not. It's just a 90. It's a hose that's actually built in with the 90. Works real good. Very flexible. Now, as you guys can see what we did here with our push lock, like I said, these are those clamps. If I can steady up that camera. This light kind of sucks, huh? Is that a little bit better? So those are those push lock. And then make sure you guys use these clamps as well to hold that in place so you guys don't have any leaks. Once again, you're going to need a set of these. I don't know if I've talked about these before when I was making tranny lines. I'll try to put a link down in the description below to all this stuff. But now we got that done. All we got to do is screw that on and it's done. So we got those lines in, ready to go. So heater lines are all hooked up. We got all the heater lines hooked up. Now we can work on that supercharger lines. We'll do that on the, if I can get up, we'll do that on the next episode, whatever you want to call it, series. But we'll do that for sure. I got to go get those, like I said, those fittings that got to go onto that Schwartz adapter so we can adapt our lines. But let me know what you guys think about this. Like I said, this is all kind of a learning curve for me as well. I'm just learning as I go. That's really why I'm kind of just showing you guys what I've come up with in the finished product. But make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. I see you guys watching, and you guys already know, stay wrenching.